All right, in this video, I'm going to tell you basically about how we built an AI software engineer employee in our company and how you can do the same. For a little bit of context, I've been running a software development agency over about the past 4 years, and we've started building AI agents for all of our clients basically. And the reason we did this is because the first AI agent we built was actually for ourselves and it was extremely useful. And it was really built on top of OpenClaw. And I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. And it's not that complicated. So this is really like if you have built a platform, maybe you've hired other engineers to help you, but you want some help doing like quick fixes and things like that. This can be a good option for you. Or if you run an agency yourself, like you just want to get more work done. I don't know. I found this setup super useful. First, I'm just going to show you an example interaction of kind of like how this works and how this is really helpful in our day-to-day business. And then I'm going to explain how you can actually set up the agent from scratch, and then also how you can connect your code base to the agent so that it can actually ship updates, while also being safe about these though, and having the proper guardrails in place so that your AI agent doesn't just start deleting the entire production database with users in it and stuff like that. Especially as users start to use your applications, if you've got customers on there, having an AI agent with full access can be very dangerous. And so you should probably watch out for that. So let's get into the example interactions. You can see here, basically I had a client who reached out and said, this particular feature isn't working as it should. And so I literally just sent this over to my assistant. I said, hey, this isn't working. Can you please investigate? I asked a little bit about, hey, like how come this code was there? And is there this other potential error if we fix it in this way that it's proposing? And then I asked, can we also just remove this other requirement that the client also mentioned to me to remove? And then it opens up what's called a PR, a pull request on GitHub. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's basically as if, we have this Google Doc where we write the application and somebody's saying, hey, I want to change this part. Like, here's what I want to change and why I want to change it. It's a request to change things, basically. I'm explaining this really because I want this to be accessible to even people who are unfamiliar with all of these tools. So it's opened a pull request, which I can then go ahead and merge if I want to commit the changes into the main code base. So you can see how this gets useful, right? Because whenever we have small fixes that a client needs, when I used to have to get into my laptop and open up the code base and double check things, I can now just send it to my AI employee and say, hey, can you just fix up this little thing? And then open up a pull request so that I can review your changes. This is useful for me, even though I'm an engineer. Like, I have the capacity to make these changes myself, but if I'm on the go, I can text my assistant over Telegram and it just instantly works. And that's super valuable for me. I think this is more interesting though, if you are non-technical and you are shipping some kind of application. I say this because this is very interesting for some of our clients, which want the ability to make small changes and so forth, but don't want to keep a developer on payroll. Especially when you're talking about small fixes, I think this is an extremely powerful kind of way to do it once you have a code base that's up and running. You can also apply this to a vibe coded project or something like that. In this particular instance, we're using OpenClaw as the AI agent itself. When it comes to setting up your OpenClaw, there's a couple different options you have. So number one, you can buy a server off the shelf and just configure it yourself if you're a developer. So you're going to have to SSH into the server through a command line, install OpenClaw, and set it up there. Option two is you can buy some kind of like off-the-shelf OpenClaw, which is already pre-set up. Hostinger offers one. I think there's a couple other places that offer one. Actually, my company, Footopia.com, we set one up as well, and I made a video about how to set that up. You basically buy a container on a server for $6 a month, and then you input an API key and a Telegram bot token, which I actually show you how to do yourself on that video. We have limited availability, but I just made it so that when I make these tutorials, you can try with a really cheap option as well. That was really kind of my idea in making it, but there's other options out there too. You can go do your own research. And once you have that set up, you will now have a working Telegram chat, which you can text, and you have a server that's essentially just yours. So from there, I'm going to teach you how to connect it to GitHub and then how to start getting it to make edits and things like that. So this basically comes down to sharing your GitHub access to your OpenClaw. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to go to github.com. So you're going to want to go over to settings. Under settings, you're going to scroll down. You're going to go to developer settings. Then you're going to click personal access tokens. And then you're going to click tokens classic. Okay. And under personal access tokens classic, you're going to click generate new token. Whether you want to generate a general use one or a fine grained one is going to come down to your security concerns. Now, if you are a developer who's used GitHub before, you'll know kind of what this means, and you'll probably be more familiar with scoping permissions to make sure that it's safe. If you're somebody who's less technical and not as experienced on GitHub, in short, the general use token will be kind of the easiest to set up because it's just going to give by default a pretty wide scope of permissions for the OpenClaw agent to do things. However, that also creates more security risk. So in this setup, I'm going to show you how to make a fine-grained, what's called a repo scope token, which is basically where you tell it which code bases it can access. So we're going to click that. We go in here, we sign in, and then we can go ahead and write a name. Let's call this one my test token for my OpenClaw to access my repos. The resource owner is going to be me. The expiration, I'm going to put, let's say 90 days. Generally, I would recommend putting some kind of expiration date on it, just so that, if you forget, this thing just isn't out there on the internet waiting to be hacked. No expiration is obviously the most risky option. If you don't have anything on there, you can ultimately do it. And then you can select which repositories you want to give access to your OpenClaw. You need to know where that application is being deployed from, right? So where's that code currently existing? Where's the source code basically? And I'm assuming that you have it on GitHub for the purpose of this tutorial. If you're confused at this point because maybe you don't have a GitHub repo, feel free to leave a comment asking any kind of question about this, and I can make you a video, showing how you might be able to work through this in your particular situation. I upload on a daily basis. I'm more than happy to make a couple extra tutorials for people who are wondering about how to set this up in different ways. Depending on what you have, you can click either public repositories, all repositories, or only select repositories. If you have a lot of different repositories on your account and you only want your OpenClaw to touch one of them in particular, you can select which one you want from the list of repositories that you have. In this particular case, I'm going to leave all repositories because I want this OpenClaw assistant to be able to do things on all of my different client projects. I need to choose which permissions does this OpenClaw get with this token. And this is kind of also where you control the amount of security that you want to give it. So in this permissions tab, you basically get to select what exactly can this OpenClaw agent do with your token on these different repositories. Can it create issues, pull requests? Can it change environments? If this is all sounding really, really foreign to you, don't worry, I'm going to give you basically a default set that you can go with. For this personal access token, I'm going to go ahead and add actions so it can control GitHub Actions, pull requests so it can open up pull requests, issues so that it can open up different issues as well, Dependabot alerts, and workflows here. And for each of these, I want read and write access for issues. I want read and write access for pull requests, read and write for workflows, and read and write for Dependabot alerts and actions as well. So they're all read and write. And then I'm going to go ahead and generate token. So I'm going to create a personal access token, which will expire 31st of July. And it's going to grant 6 permissions for all of the repositories, since that's what I selected earlier. And it's going to let my OpenClaw read and write the different actions, issues, pull requests, and workflows and Dependabot alerts. So we can go ahead and click generate token. So then you're going to get your token here, which you want to copy, and you want to keep this safe. All right. So I'm going to delete this token right after this video, so it won't be a security concern for me. However, you never want to be sharing your token, just out there or leaving it in plain text, because somebody can obviously use this to make changes to your code bases. And then basically you can paste it in here and say, here is my GitHub access token. Please store it as a secret right into your agent.md file that you can access my GitHub with this token along with wherever you write it to. So I'm not going to send this message because my assistant already has a token, and I'm going to delete this one right after, so it's not going to keep working. However, sending a small message like this can be helpful, because one of the issues that I had when I initially shared my access token was that it kept forgetting to check the place where it had saved this token. So obviously, because this token is a secret, it's going to keep it in the server where it keeps a bunch of different secrets. I tell it to write it into the agent.md file, which is basically a file that will get loaded into every single message that you send. So it will always be reminded of whatever you've written there. If you say, always write good morning to me, then it will always write good morning in every reply that it sends to you. So I just tell it to, make sure to write in there that your GitHub access token is in so-and-so place. And this will usually make my life much easier, so that whenever I say, hey, this project or this client is asking for something, it knows exactly where to check. Just very quickly, I'll also show you how it works with the classic tokens. So when you generate a new token, if you click classic, you have an access list, which is a little different, where basically you can't select which repositories it may or may not have access to. However, in my case, that was fine for me because I actually wanted to access all of my repositories. So if you're good with that, this is also something that you can do. And you can basically say, it can read and write these things, and you can choose exactly what it's able to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Once you give your personal access token, you can start asking your OpenClaw agent to do different things on your code base. Now, the way that your OpenClaw agent, actually gets these changes deployed is going to be different on a case-by-case basis, depending on how you've got your application connected from the code base to the deployment. But now you can ask, this agent and assistant questions about your code at any time from anywhere. You could make the argument that you can already do this with things like Claude Code, and you certainly can do a lot with Claude Code. But one of the things that I find extremely frustrating about Claude Code is that if you open a Claude Code session on your phone, it's going to spin up an environment from scratch every single time you send it a message with a new chat. The benefit that I like about OpenClaw is the fact that it's really, really fast because it's living on a server that is up at all times. When I just want to double check a functionality or a feature, or the client is asking, hey, how does this part of the application work? And this is a project that we built maybe 3 months ago. Being able to just text somebody and say, hey, how does this bit work again? You get an instant reply. They've already got the repository downloaded on their system. It's just really, really useful. So yeah, if you've got any questions on how to actually start using this, please feel free to let me know. I hope you found some value in this tutorial and kind of how you can get started with an AI software engineer employee. For the right people, this could save you a lot of money on software engineers and so forth. So feel free to give it a try. Let me know what you think. If you use the OpenClaw by Foodtovia, please let me know any feedback. You know, I'm iterating on this product a lot these days. And I think it's something I'm quite excited about, just because I would love to be able to give more people access to this really cool technology. So any and all feedback is always great. That being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was useful to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one too.